Hello, everybody. Today I would like to tell you a story about development of humans. And I would like to start with this nice picture. This is Easter Island, which is situated in the middle of nowhere. It's a small island in the middle of Pacific Ocean. Very, very small. It belonged to Chile now, but it was discovered by Europeans in the middle of 18th century. An interesting thing about this island is that it has this very strange status in very great extent. History of this island is a nice illustration how non-sustainable could be development of people. And this story is borrowed from very interesting book of Jared Diamond, Collapse. So, society of Easter Island in that ages was quite developed. They managed to use tools. They managed to have quite big society, quite complex society with complex interactions. And they started constructing these statues to show the level, the power of different tribes within this society. With time, competition grew higher and higher, and people on the island spent their resources, most importantly forests, to construct and raise more and more these statues. And at some point, society collapsed. Why? Because through cutting trees to raise these statues, through devoting more and more land to non-core activity, non-essential activities, they undermine whole environmental situation. Collapse was very fast and it was terrible. Roughly 70% of population simply died. Society was completely destroyed, and now tribes have no writing, for instance, as they used to have before. That's Eastern Island, small society in the middle of Pacific Ocean. But if you read the next quote, which goes, "The American nation is marching along the permanently high plateau of prosperity." That's an interesting statement, and it was announced in 1929 by economists. In a couple of years, situation turned out to be complete disaster. It was the height of Great Depression, with a lot of people lost their jobs, with a lot of people lost their lives, with a lot of people lost their destiny. And this idea that American nation is marching toward a very high plateau of prosperity turned out to be non-sustainable in 30s. Well, let's look back into past 50, 60 years. What we will see on our planet. First of all, we will see great and impressive achievements. Between 1960 and 2009, life expectancies increased by 1/3. That's amazing. Mortality rates for children under 5 dropped by half. So now, if you are born, you have 50% more chances to survive to year 5. That's great. That's great. That's great achievement. That's great progress. The share of literate people almost halved. Now, roughly everybody could read. But we still have problems. We still more than 1 billion people living below poverty line of 125 per day. We still have very high inequality. So if we consider world as one country, Gini coefficient, which measure inequality of incomes, will be 0.7. So countries that world will have highest inequality in the world. And that's very dangerous because excessive inequality is bad for development. If you look on human development, on development as measured by Human Development Index. And if you look on losses due to inequalities, you will see these countries, they're arranged in certain line. More developed countries tend to have much less inequalities, and less developed countries tend to have much more inequalities. Of course, we are talking about correlation, not causality, but this is quite telling. And by the way, this is not only income inequality we are talking about. We are talking about inequalities in all three areas of our life: healthy life, knowledge, and decent standards of living. So, is the world marching toward permanently higher plateau of development? And what could go wrong? Currently, we are staying on the cliff of sustainability. What is sustainability? What we are talking about? Brundtland Commission brought quite good and interesting definition. They talked about development which meets the needs of present generation without compromising ability of future generation to meet their own needs. This definition brings together two key concepts. One concept is needs, essential needs of people, and especially essential needs of world poor, because if we keep living in this very unequal world, it will be not good for our development. On the other hand, it brings concept of limitations. What limitations we have because of technology we are currently using? What limitation do we have because of social organization we have now? What limitations we have because of environmental ability to meet present and future needs? We are talking about two types of sustainability. One is a strong sustainability. And here we are talking about three types of capital: economic, social, and natural capital. And we look them as not completely substitutional. We cannot completely substitute natural capital, our forest, our land, with some economic capital, with factory or other production. We look on them rather as complementary capitals. And through this, we should maintain certain minimum of every form of capital, right? So we should not go below certain minimum, critical minimum limit of each type of capital. Another approach is weak sustainability. It says, okay, we have certain level of substitution between different capitals. Of course, we could not completely replace forest with industry. But in a certain practical range, we could replace natural capital with social capital or economical capital. And thus, we should maintain certain minimum total capital without paying attention what is the ratio between different individual forms of capital. So if we have losses in our natural capital, but we got a lot of economic and social capital, that could be fine. That's two approaches to sustainability. Another extremely important concept is carrying capacity approach. What is the optimal scale of our economy, of our life related to environment? How we could increase quality of human life without overstepping the carrying capacity of our support ecosystems? We have no clear answer on this question. And whole conference Rio and Rio +20 were devoted to these important debates. If you look on current background, on current world, we have quite impressive number. World population today is 7 billion people, and most probably it will reach 9 billion by 2050. We still have a lot of problems. For instance, 2.6 billion people lack access to sanitary. 100 million have no access to modern healthcare. 925 million are still undernourished. We have problems with excessive inequalities. The world's poorest people consume only 1.3% of resources, while the richest 20% consume 83% of world resources. It's quite high inequality. Another bad news is that if we keep current production and consumption pattern, we will need 2 planets by 2015. If in year 1900 we had ecological footprint, I mean whole world have ecological footprint on the level of less than 1 world. By 2002 we little bit step over this. And by 2015 we will need 2 planets. That's the situation of Easter Island. Yes, we could raise the nice statues, we could do things now, but we are stepping over carrying capacity and we face the risk of collapse. If we look on more kind of economic indicators, we will clearly see unsustainability as borrowing from the future. This chart shows long-term loans of households as a percentage of GDP. And you can see that in our region we have dramatic increase of loans, especially after year 2001. It's a little bit go down after year 2008 with all this economic crisis, but still that's very high borrowing. If you look on whole Europe situation, we have some countries which overstep this very high barrier of debt. Some countries have more than 100% ratio of debt to GDP. We take a photo of this advertisement in some village of Slovakia. And it says that we will provide you money without documents, without any confirmation that you have resources to pay back. We even offer you up to 30,000 euro even for unemployed. That's a clear message. That's a clear visualization of the very fact that we as societies are debt junkies. We are very attached to debt to finance our current consumption. We look on GDP as an indicator of progress, of development, but we are tricked with it because more debt means higher GDP. But what higher GDP means? And we, through debt junkies, we becoming also production junkies because consumption becoming a patriotic act. You should consume more to get higher level of GDP in country. And slowly but surely, definition of normality is shifting from static to stable rate of increase. What we expect? We expect to have a constant growth, to GDP to be bigger, better, to get something new. So we expect stability, sustainability as an ability to sustain certain level of growth. But do growth and new goods mean expanding people potential to be and to do? That's a big question because in a certain extent we replacing this chain of commodity which turns it to be functionality, which contribute to capability, with another chain which says we use natural resources to get commodities, to get higher consumption, and in the end of the day, to get garbage. Because big part of our consumption is garbage. We are spending money we don't have to buy things we don't need because we finance this consumption through debt. That's money we don't have. And what we are buying for this? We are buying things we really don't need. Because if you look on, for instance, computers, phones, and so on and so forth, do you really need all these things? Not sure. That's an issue how long we could maintain this model of producing garbage and creating some jobs in between and destroying natural resources, and what we will leave for our children. How sustainable is our world? How sustainable all these three pillars, economic, social, and natural capital?